We're into the cloud. Hello, welcome everybody to Run It Back, episode number 55. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez, who is currently caught in a full desktop version of Zoom right now, so it makes it a little bit weird for me. This is obviously my beautiful daughter, London, joining us apparently. So on Run It Back, the premise remains the same. We take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about things that worked, things that didn't, how we prepared for the game, what went into the scouting report, matchups, um, game time adjustments, in game adjustments, and then, of course, like hindsight looking back at it and seeing whether or not we fulfilled what we thought we were supposed to do for the game plan. As with every other week, we take a specific game, but with many of these running backs, we've been very, very fortunate to have one of the coaches from the game join us. So this week, we're going to look at the February 24th, 2021 game of Albany State versus Tuskegee from Albany State's perspective. And we are very fortunate today to have Coach Patrick Gayle join us from Albany State. Coach Gayle, if you give me a second, I'm going to try my best to do you some justice with a warm introduction here. Coach Gayle has been the head coach for Albany State since 2018, July 10th. Excuse me. He has won a division title there. Prior to that, he spent 10 years at St. Thomas in Miami, 6 as an assistant coach, 4 as the head coach. As the head coach, he put together a record of 125 and 51, went to 2 Sweet 16s, had 2 regular season titles, and 2 Coach of the Year awards. Prior to that, was an assistant coach at Tiffin College, Creekside High School in Fairburn, and Nova High School in Davie. So, Coach Gayle, I am enthralled to have you spend some time with me today and run it back, so to speak. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate the warm introduction.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So, this we've done a few of them on this show, but this is a COVID year game. So before I talk about your specific process of preparation, maybe give me a little bit of a rundown of the complications, the challenges, the feats of accomplishment that you guys had to face with this particular season, and how you guys sort of navigated through scheduling, navigated through the preparation of getting players ready, and what that meant for some of your players.
Well, first and foremost, I have to say that the coaches in the conference that played, it was all, coaches getting together. I think we got together in January, maybe early to late January. I'm sorry, early to mid January, just to see who was playing and when we would play. So Coach Taylor, Coach Benji Taylor of Tuskegee, big shout out to him because we played him that was the fourth game of the 4 games that we scheduled. And I had gone to play him twice to start the second semester. And he was returning the games. So it, we literally had to speak or have some type of conversation, some type of correspondence weekly. And as it got later in the season, as it got, into February, it was almost daily or every other day. It was either through a text message, it was either through an email, can't come this time. We got to move the date this time. We had to coordinate, COVID testing. We tested every other day because we were considered in season. We had to change practice times. We had to adjust practice. And then let's not forget about, the fact that one campus may be open, another campus may not. So that presented some issues. So it was a lot of pre-planning and a lot of crumbling up the plans, throwing it away, starting over again, or scrapping. So, Coach Maddox at Benedict, Coach Taylor at Tuskegee, Coach Watson at Miles, Coach Kennedy at Spring Hill, we got together and we were able to play some games, and it was really a great testament and example of awesome leadership between the coaches in the conference that did play.
So I put myself on mute in an attempt to try and fix my coaching voice, which is dissipating currently, but I got a little water. Hopefully it's a little bit better moving forward. But from all of the games that I've had the good fortune of running it back, um, that took place during COVID, I think exactly what you just said has been the consensus, just like a real testament to good leadership because of the challenges that everyone was faced. I mean, we were not able to pull off a season up here in Canada. So my hat goes off to any and all coaches involved in making it happen for our players, our student athletes. So moving into game preparation, obviously, I'm sure it became very challenging, just like you said, having to play certain teams numerous times and having to face cancellations and rescheduling. Um, so, how do you approach this team? As you mentioned, you played them three other times this season. You had gone 1-2 against them, including playing them the day before. So you're coming off of a loss the night before. So when do you start this scout, and what does that really look like in your specific scenario? Do you have on court days? Do you have a paper copy that's given to them? Do you have video clips, a combination of stuff? Walk me through your process, please, coach.
Okay, so that's a great point. So this was the fourth game of 4 game schedule. We had previously played in three games. The last 2 games, the night before, we lost in overtime where we got fouled. We had a defensive stop, got fouled at the end of regulation. Only needed to hit one free throw to win, missed both. Went into overtime, and we got down to a last second timeout play call. We just needed a basket. I was trying to run some misdirection. It kind of worked out, and we slipped the screen, had a layup, missed the layup. So we lost. We lost that game the night before. And this is a nice way of saying I kind of challenged my team for this last game because I felt like we should have won the night before, and then the game before that, the second game at their house, we lost on a buzzer beater by their best player, one of the best players in the country actually, Greg Boyd. So Greg hit a buzzer beater against us in the second game, their last game at home that we played. So we pretty much knew this team, and they knew us. So we knew all their sets, they knew all our sets. So I approached it like a conference tournament game where you already know going into the week how you want to rest, how you want to practice. You want to make sure that they have fresh legs. You want to make sure that they're sharp mentally, more so than worry about trying to kill them physically. So everything you just said, it's usual game planning. They do have a scout for every game. My assistant staff, led by Coach Adrian White, is does a takes a big part of that role. My other assistant, Vince Caruso, does a lot of the video work and going over their specific sets and going over stats, analytics on what we ran, who's playing, how many minutes, where they should be taking their shots, and we want to put video to the analysis that we come up with. So we felt like we could do some things offensively against them because our post player was having a really good run against them. I mean, he was hard to guard, Jordan Simpson. So we felt like we can throw the ball inside to Jordan and get some things open for everybody else. And with our guard play that we had led by Malik Parker, we felt like we can get some shots that we needed to get to beat this team because they were kind of a small team. They played a lot of 4 and 5 guard lineups. So I was more focused on defensively what we would have to do. We made the decision to kind of switch everything by that game, and we had to kind of analyze with our big guys be able to guard, their guards in some spots. So we identified, who would hurt us where, and if we were to get a switch, how we would guard, those guys specifically. And for the most part, looking back at the game, it worked out.
So, Coach, I love it. You've given me a lot there. Let me sort of jump in at various spots. I have a few questions in there. So, at any point during this season, did you go sort of the more traditional path of writing up scouting reports and giving them to your guys, and then did you go away from that because, like you said, this is the fourth time you're playing them and you're more so analyzing the previous games, and then, as you mentioned, you were looking at the various things that you wanted to make changes upon from the previous games. How do you convey that to your guys? Like, is it just a quick conversation like, hey, we're going to move to the switch? Or are you showing them some film from the games like, this is why we want to switch, this is what the matchup is going to look like, or we want to establish such post players, so we're going to move into this set more often? Like, what does that whole process look like, specifically from game number 3 to game number 4?
Well, those are great questions. So I'm going to try to start from the beginning and answer the
Yeah,
questions.
I'm very sorry, Coach Gayle. I layer questions. It's a
No,
really
that's fine.
I apologize.
No, don't apologize. I appreciate the questions. So we do give for every game, and like I said, I kind of took it to conference tournament time where you see a team multiple times. That's pretty much the only time you're going to see the same team so many times. So we do give them a scout for every game. Even if we play the night before, we still update the stats from last night's game to give them a scout. You want to give them fresh information as much as possible. That's number one. Specific matchups. We're coaching a generation that can't tell them anything. You have to show them. You gotta answer their analytical questions that they're gonna have, and then you gotta show them again. So we coach visual learners. So you have to not only walk it through on the court, and because I believe both games were during the week, we don't have shoot around during the week because we're sensitive to their class time. But what we can do is meet and watch film. So for this specific game, we did have, our shoot around can be, on the court or it can be in the film room. So because we played the night before, we definitely watched specific clips on how we would guard not only specific actions, but specific players and matchups. We have a system that we don't usually change the coverage of how we want to guard a team game to game, unless we feel like there's a special player that we have to kind of pay attention to. And his name was Greg Boyd. So we went into the game saying, okay, we can't allow this young man to beat us. So he cannot touch the ball. So we did some things so that we would limit his touches. And watching the game, the first score that they had, he scored it. So it was like that was a breakdown because he shouldn't even touch the ball. So exactly. So that was the main game plan. I mean, they had a talented group because although they were a guard heavy team, they had bigger guards that could still be in certain spots and hurt you. Short corner, deep corner, they can pick and pop, so they could still hurt you even though they were a guard playing a traditional forward spot. So it was a challenging. Like you said, we were 1-2 against them, so it was challenging to try to make sure we get this last game. Right. And it was challenging because we had played them, the night before, and we had a disappointing loss. But because we did lose, in that manner, I knew we would be focused. So that film session that day, they were focused. I didn't have to say much because we knew that we kind of gave one away.
What does the teaching in one of those film sessions look like? Like you mentioned, show them, tell them, show them again, basically.
Right.
Which to me is fabulous. My excuse me, my uncle was a teacher and used to say that exact line all the time.
Yep.
Forgive me for 1 second.
No, you're good.
I don't know why I'm losing my voice so badly today. Sorry. But you have a film session. What is the duration of that film? And how are you ensuring that all the people in there are getting the same information despite different learning styles? Are you asking questions while you're doing it? Are you testing them while they're doing it? Are you like stopping it midway or going all the way like what does it look like from a teaching perspective for you?
Combination of everything. I was a former teacher as well, and I always go by body language. So if I'm going over something and your eyes are somewhere else, or you just look like you're not locked in, then I'm going to kind of amp it up a little bit to make sure that you pay attention. So, I'll definitely ask questions. I'll pause, I'll kind of let some things go through on purpose and then go back to it just to see if you were paying attention. So I always tell my guys that your game day is the game day, is the time that we play. My game day is every other time. So every time that I have them, that's my game day. That's the only thing I can control. I can't control the game. So if I don't have
I'm sorry, coach.
100%.
I want to ask you to re-emphasize that. I actually like that a lot. Your game day is the game day. My game day is every other piece of
Every
time
other,
around it.
that's right. So the same way that they take the game seriously and they're, nervous and getting ready for the game itself, that's actually when I'm not nervous because I don't have any control. I'm not one of those coaches that, is a madman on the sidelines. I'm a madman in practice. I'm a madman in film. So that game day, I'm as calm as can be because I know I don't have control. So I've already prepared for that. So I'm going through those worst case, best case scenarios, the film session, the practice, the shoot around time, the one-on-one time, the meeting with my staff, all of those, all of those moments that I have to prepare for the game, even right before the game. And I'm by myself trying to go through every possession, trying to figure out what the matchup will be. If this person gets in foul trouble, what's the counter? Looking at the stats again, did I miss anything? Looking at the shot chart, did I miss anything from a player that maybe just against us he had a good game? He may not be someone that's in their regular rotation.
Right.
He may have played for whatever reason against us the previous year or whatever. I keep a folder of of every team that we play, and it's full of notes not just from the year. It's actually the coach. So I scout coaches. I don't just scout teams. So if we have a new coach that is in the conference, I'm gonna watch film of where he used to, where he used to coach, even if he's an assistant, because he's gonna have some type of influence that's gonna go into that game. So that's my preparation. So when I'm in film session, I only have a set amount of time, 45 minutes to an hour to present them. So it's kind of like a presenting, kind of what you're doing. You put a lot of hours into this production that we may only see for an hour. Right. So it's the same thing. I have a small amount of time with their attention span. So I got to make sure I hit everything, and I got to hit it in a way of they're going to remember it. They're not going to remember it with me being monotone and me being nonchalant. The only way they're going to remember it is investing their emotions into it as well.
It's interesting, coach, because I always make the analogy, I call it the DJ effect. So, I mean, when I went to university, I didn't have the good fortune of playing varsity any longer. I was an okay high school player, but I didn't play at the collegiate level. But I spent a lot of time with a lot of DJs, and I was in and around the entertainment industry a lot. And one of the things we'd always joke around about is, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, there's not much difference between the DJ that you see that's making multi-million dollars performing all around the world versus the DJ who's at your local club, except for the fact of all the hours that you don't see where he's digging around in crates, prepping sets, like recording stuff, downloading stuff, as opposed to the guy who just shows up and wings it, so to speak.
Right.
So like I really think you're hitting the nail on the head in terms of, like, yeah, there's not much difference between one person's performance in the others, other than the amount of preparation that really goes into it, which is what I love about this show, because I mean, the questions from week to week don't change that much, but the answers do dramatically because everybody has a different process and values different things that go into the input of it. So I've really had the good fortune as a coach to sit down and listen to other good coaches such as yourself, and what's important to them. Moving away from patting the show on the back, though, of course, and talking about what your specific process is. Do you think there's going to be a couple questions here, and I'm sorry. Do you think that it was almost a little bit beneficial to play the same team so many more times in a year, in that you could make more adjustments and really see how effective each of those adjustments were? And then, in addition to that, uh, as a coach, do you believe more, like, I think of this as a continuum or as a spectrum of being a jack of all trades, master of none, versus a highly specified coach in certain areas? And let me elaborate on that question a little bit, in that, like, screen coverage is we're only ever going to switch, versus we're going to do everything, and we're going to do everything a little bit well, so to speak. So two-part question, but like the benefit of playing the team so many times, if any, and then your particular viewpoint on how you approach mastery versus usury of lots of different things.
Well, I think there's only one benefit when you play a team multiple times, when you already beat them. If you have,
Right.
we were 1-2, so I didn't want to see them again, but at the same time, we knew, like I said, we knew them. We knew their system, we knew their personnel at that point. But you're only having a benefit when you beat when you're very very successful. But it's really hard to beat a team. And I go back. I like to reference this because this is kind of the situation. It's hard to beat a team multiple times. So when you get to that conference tournament, it's hard to beat a team that third time if you're seeing them that third time. And it's hard to beat a team, when you're seeing them so many times. And on the flip side, I'm sure they felt the same way. That they beat us the previous two times, so he kind of figured, okay, they're going to be ready to play. No one likes to lose to the same team multiple times. To answer
Right.
your next question, I think we have a system. I teach the system, but you have to adapt to your players every year.
Okay.
And it's not like professional basketball where a coach, like let's say Phil Jackson, he's had the same core guys in Chicago his tenure, and he didn't have Shaq the same time, but he had Kobe Bryant, the whole time during his tenure with the Lakers. So you can have your players kind of teach that system every year. Well, college, you're not. We're gone are the days where you're recycling players every 4 years. It's more like every 2 years. You're lucky if you have every 3 years. So we had a great group the previous year where we won, a conference division championship and got to the championship game of our conference tournament. Well, we only had one starter returning to the team this year, and that starter was a freshman the previous year. So you're expecting a lot of maturity to happen, from year to year, to go from a freshman to a sophomore. So you're reteaching the system,
Right.
you know. So you have to adapt to the players that you have. You want to teach the system a certain way. There's certain things that you're not going to, negotiate, but there's certain things you're going to have to based upon your personnel. So to answer that question, I do believe you can be very good, at anything. I'm not going to say that I'm very good at something and it's over. I'm going to try to continue to be very good at everything that I can try to be, can try to compete, with. Being a jack of all trades, that sounds good, but, you have to kind of lay your hat on something. And I think most coaches, when they compete against, my teams, they know what they're competing against, and I'm fine with that. I try to
Right.
make sure that we are a defensive team. We do certain things defensively that if you're not going to do, you're not going to play. You know, we try to kind of be we try to be a hybrid team. offensively from year to year based on our personnel. But guys that play for me know you're not going to touch the floor if you don't do certain things defensively. And that's
Love it.
ball pressure, uh, a reversal denial, and um, protecting the paint. Those are probably the three staples that we have. So, yes, I try to hedge every ball screen. You have some
I
guys
love it.
that aren't very good at hedging it, you're not going to play. You can do it, you choose not to do it, then that's a different story. But if you can't do it, you're not going to play. So again, that's where practice comes in. You can make mistakes in practice. I can teach you the different angles. I can teach you the timing. But once we get to the game, I'm not going to be so, coach, I didn't hedge because he had hit a three the previous possession. I'm sorry, I didn't hedge because he split the ball screen defense previous possession. So I was afraid of him doing that. I'm not going to be so upset about that because he's playing basketball, and those are the adjustments that players make that coaches have to understand. You want your players to make adjustments. You can't be the only one making adjustments. They are the ones that play. So a lot of times when players come to me, they'll ask me questions, and I'll say, "What are you asking me for? You're the one on the court. You
Right.
know, this kid just hit a couple of threes. Change the way that you're guarding him, so that he doesn't burn you again." So I get it.
I think that it's awesome that your players trust you enough to have that dialogue with you too, because certain players, I've been in both experiences where the coaching staff is a my way or the highway type coaching staff. So then the players just, they decide they're going to do something on their own, like you're saying, they're making an audible, but then they're not going to have a conversation or talk about why they're doing it. And then I've been in the other situation where it's like, coach, I've noticed this, I'd like to do that, or I just did this because, and like, I personally think that that's a better situation that fosters learning quite a bit better. Let's move into a little bit of in game. You mentioned, being calm when you're approaching the game because it's their time to shine, so to speak, but you did also mention paying attention to matchups, paying attention to shot charts and all that. So, what sorts of things are you and your assistants tracking on the bench? What's important to you from the box score? And then, how are you looking to adjust specifically in this game from things that you're seeing or as a general process overall as well?
Well, the staff, we will always meet. Um, let's go back to the day before game. So before
Okay.
we present the information to the team, we'll always meet to figure out, okay, what do we want to hone in on offensively, defensively. So each person has their responsibility. So now, game day, um, and I'll transition to in game, but game day, we're going to meet again just to make sure we're all on the same page before shoot around, before a film session. But we pretty much know what we're going to talk about. And then again, this is where I also allow the staff to do the same thing as the players. If they're going to notice something as they're speaking to the players, I'm going to allow them. I actually rather them speak more so than I speak. I want them to have ownership of the scouting report more so than I will have ownership because we all do our own preparation on our own. So I'll watch film the night before a game. I'll watch film right before shoot around, leading up to the time I go talk to the team, and I'll watch film right before the actual game itself. So I always give myself, it's kind of routine I have, an hour before game time. I'm watching an hour's worth of film, and it's always a full game. It's not different clips or one specific person. It's always a full game. So I go try to find a game. It could be a couple seasons ago. It could be the previous season. It could be early in the season. It could be the last game they played. But something that I didn't pay attention to that I said, okay, this is a good game to watch just because I look at the score, I look at the box score to see who did what, and I get a feeling. You know what?
Right.
Their best player, he didn't have a good game last game. So the last time he didn't play well, how did he play the next game? How aggressive was he?
Right.
Or find a similar situation. You know what? They lost their previous two games. So how did they respond early in the season when they had kind of a two game losing streak, or the opposite? How did they respond when they were winning a lot of games? They won the previous game. They want to continue the winning streak. So what are some of the things they did to continue the winning streak? But there's something that you can watch to get you to say, you know what? I didn't see that before. I'm glad I watched it. So I try to block out everything, before game time. I don't answer my phone. I'm very short with my staff or whoever will try to speak to me because I'm just locked in and
Right.
focused on that. And then as the team is warming up, I'll be by myself and kind of now gather all those notes to put down on my play sheet specific things that I want to look for, and my assistants will have specific things that they'll put notes down on for themselves to look for. So, going into a game, we each have our own routines. So we're going to have our own notes. So there'll be things that we'll all say, whether it be in a huddle, whether it be on a bench, right before a timeout, that, I didn't know that they were thinking about it, but I'm glad they were. And then to answer your question about communicating with the players, I've actually had a play that I had that I wanted to draw up, and a certain player will say, "Coach, this is going to be open," and I'll erase the play, and I'll say, "Okay, so draw it up for me," and I'll have them kind of, tell me, kind of walk me through what they're seeing, and I would say it's a 90% success rate every time they say something's open, it's open because
Right.
again, they're playing,
Right.
and I always like to let them know that their input matters more than mine because they're actually on the court.
I
You know
love
what I
it.
mean?
I love it. Uh, I, I, I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of uh, trust, I think is the ideal word, on both parties' parts to be in a player-led environment. But that's ultimately the best way to do it, where there's input from everybody. I think it works very well for sure. Going back to my question though, are there specific indicators in game that you're tracking to look for adjustments? Like uh, you mentioned the shot chart. Do you guys, is there anything of importance that jumps out on the box sheet to you, or like is there something that you're always specifically looking for at?
Well, there are three things that every time at halftime, before I speak to anyone, I look at the stat sheet that I'm looking for. So the first thing is where they're getting their points from. It could
Right.
be the free throw line.
Right.
So how many free throw are there? Who's shooting more free throws and who's making more free throws? Then I look at the field goal percentage and I look at whoever has the highest points, look at his field goal percentage. And obviously the best player that we had coming in, his field goal percentage. The one thing about players, first half stats don't matter because players show up when it matters the most in the second half, especially the last 10 minutes. So let's say their best
Right.
player is not shooting well. That's a mental note. He's going to be aggressive. So now we may have to adjust how we guard him. What we did in the first half might have been great, but his coach is going to have an adjustment and he's going to have an adjustment. So that's a mental note. Whether he's doing well or whether he's not doing well, do we have to change how we're going to guard him in the second half? Or I may have a note just to keep in the back of my mind, okay, when it comes down to just, low possessions, one or two, three possessions in the game, how can we change it up that he won't expect that he hasn't seen the whole game based upon, how he's shooting? Is he shooting is he getting his points from the 3-point line? Is he getting his points, from the free throw line? Or is he just having just an all around good game? Something looking at his shot chart specifically is going to tell you, what's going on. And then finally, the rebounding. Doesn't matter how well you're playing defense. If you can't rebound, defense gets thrown out the window. And flip it. If you're getting, good offensive rebounds, and as I'm looking at this specific game, they had 10 offensive rebounds in the first half alone. So that tells me that we were up 10 at halftime. We should have been up more like 15, but their offensive rebounds kept them in the game. And then you
Right.
look at, well, who's having the the rebounds, and then you look at it, oh, they got 16 offensive rebounds. So that means we're getting our hands on things, but we're not coming up with that possession. So we have to do a better job, of securing the ball. And that's actually taken away from our opportunities to run if they have so many team rebounds. So we have to kind of hone in on how we can adjust, our rebounding. Everything, goes into question. And then the secondary things, you know, assists, turnovers, those things. Obviously, you look at fouls, but the reason why I say they're secondary is because a game, kind of tells a story. Everybody at the end of the game looks at, oh, this call or that. But if you're actually reading, the stats from beginning to end, there's a trend that's happening that you better pick up on before
Right.
the last 10 minutes of the game.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I like one or two possessions often don't dictate the result for sure, but like noticing the trends throughout. I know a lot of coaches, and I think they're more advanced in their perception and their point in their career than I am. But I know a lot of coaches who can usually tell you within a shot or two, what the shots are and who's how many shots ahead of which team, and like all those kinds of things. Like the box doesn't mean as much to them as noticing the trends going through for sure. So
Right.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying there. Uh, what would an actionable item look like for you? So, like you mentioned at the half, let's say you're up 10, but they've got 10 offensive rebounds, I believe you said. Uh, I like let's say you've decided on two or three talking points. What would the action look like that you're conveying to your guys? Is it just as simple as hey, we're down in the offensive rebounds, we've got to make sure to do whatever? Or are you getting hyper specific and being like, well, Patrick Gayle is really killing us on those offensive rebounds, and they're all coming from that right block offensively, so we have to do X, Y, Z type deal. Like, what does that look like for you?
Well, the first thing I do when I go in is I'll write down the main stats that I want them to pay attention to. So I
Right.
can't remember what I wrote down, but I'm just going by how I feel now. I definitely would have put down how many offensive rebounds they had. I would have put down
For sure.
their shot chart, and just judging by the stats, I would have put down free throws because they had to me too many free throw attempts as well. And
Sorry,
again,
can I very briefly interrupt you? And I
mm,
apologize for doing so. The shot charts that you mentioned, your staff is keeping that. That's not something that's provided to you, right?
no, it's something that's provided to us. So I
Okay.
before I go into the locker room, I'll wait for the stats to come, and
And
then
they'll actually give you like similar to the synergy shot spectrum or whatever. They'll give you an outline of the court and it'll show all of the
no,
misses and
no, they
makes.
don't get that specific now. No, it's just regular
Okay.
stats. We do have a possession chart where we track the plays that we ran and what each possession to see if it was a positive where we scored or if it was a negative where we didn't score. So that's
Right.
that's where
Okay.
we get specific. But no, we don't have that. But I'm looking forward to next season because the NCAA just approved us having, iPads on the bench. So, I'm going to take advantage of that. So where we can, we do a lot of that. But I can pretty much,
That would
I
be awesome.
yeah, I can pretty much look at the stats and remember kind of key shots that both teams, where they took their shots, especially on the defensive end, where they took their shot. Offensively, offense is fickle. So even if we're hot, I'm not putting too much energy, into us, where we're making shots because if you're stopping them consistently, you can do specific things to score when you need to, where you kind of know where you're going to get your shots. You kind of know, looking at the first half, what they've done defensively to come out and where they're probably going to adjust. Teams might go zone, teams might trap, ball screen, stuff like that. So you're kind of aware of that. But anytime you try to adjust defensively, you're giving something up. You know what I mean? So you just try to figure out, okay, what adjustments are they going to make, and what are they going to try to give up? So we like to play inside out. So usually they're either going to take away your inside game, or they're going to let you play inside and take away that 3-point game. One of those two, or something's going to have to give. So I go in and I write down specific stats of the game where they can focus on where we as a team need to pay attention to and get better. And I challenge my bench. A lot of guys on the bench, they better be giving input too. You don't have to play to have an effect on the game. As a matter of fact, I tell them all the time, you want to watch the game, go on the other side of the court. You need to be involved in the game whether you play or not. So you should be telling me, hey coach, Greg, he's 2 or 4 from the field, but his two shots that he made, they were layups, man. We got to keep him out the paint, and that's going to trigger something. You know what I mean? So everybody has to be involved. So again, it's the same thing at halftime. When I'm speaking, I'm asking questions, but I want input. But I don't want input like you said of, hey guys, we need to just box out. I don't want rah-rah speech. I want intelligent, specific points where if you're going to speak, you're going to speak to something specific that we need to focus on. I don't need any rah-rah at halftime. I need us to think, okay, what are we doing and what can we do to kind of change things up in the second half?
Coach, I love it so much. I mean, my biggest expression as a coach all the time is don't be a phoney.
Yes.
So, like,
Yes.
don't give me just words for the sake of lip service. I don't need it. If I'm not doing a good job, I want to know it just as much as anybody else deserves to know it. And now, obviously, there's a way to say it. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my daughter is crying from my cat. I'm very sorry.
No problem.
I will start the recording again. I'm very sorry, everybody. Not commonplace on the show, but obviously being a parent is number one. So that's obviously what has to happen there.
No
But
doubt.
we're
London,
okay
London
now.
doesn't look as happy as she did earlier, so
No,
take care of that.
yeah, it's a tumultuous relationship between our cat and her. Sometimes they're very endearing to each other, and sometimes not so much. So everybody's got a glimpse into
But he's
those.
still my friend.
Okay, still your good. Everybody's got a glimpse into the Fernandez household, and I'm very, very sorry about that. And let's try and keep it professional and moving, of course. Uh, Coach, I love everything that you were just saying. I only have one more question before moving into some of the film. Sabag says hello. Say hello.
Hello.
There you go. My last question is, and this relates to the playing of them 4 times, obviously, but this is something that from doing this show, I am definitely going to employ going forward. And this is like a post game report type deal. And, my questions around that are, do you currently do it? And if yes, what does that look like for you? And then more specifically from the general process, playing them 4 times, the 2 times that you played them previous in the year, are you leaning on the notes from that more heavily than you are from your scouting report or anything like that? And what does that report really look like for you?
Well, that's a great question. We do, but we don't put. You don't ever want to put too much energy in any one thing. You want to, again, it's a story that's being told not only throughout the game, but throughout the season, throughout a series with a team. So a team may not be playing well early in the season, but they may be hot late in the season. There's a reason for that. But if you're paying attention, even when they were, losing games, they still had this staple that now, okay, that's hurting people, but you could see that it was going to hurt people eventually, you
Right.
know. So it's a lot of things, chemistry of a team, the maturity of a team, the experience of a team, injuries, a lot of things go into how a team's going to play and perform from game to game. We're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. So
Right.
you have to be aware of that. So we do a post game report. I watch the game after, especially after a loss. When we win, I'm happy. Trying to keep that high is kind of like a drug. You want to
Been
keep
there,
that
coach,
high.
for sure.
There you go. But after a loss, I'm miserable. I don't want to go home. I don't want to talk to anyone. So I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to watch the game fully, and then I'm going to watch specific segments I won't sleep if I don't watch it. So I'll watch that. I try not to talk to anyone because I'm not going to be in a good mood. And I try to come back the next day and then have a fresh mind of, okay, is you're done being upset. What are you going to do about it? And so you watch it again. And when you watch it again, usually, and I need to start doing this, usually I'll be more clear, or things will be presented better than right after the game. So now the next day, I see things like, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. You know what? We actually should have, most coaches say this, we should have won, or we should have had a better showing. But these things happen where, okay, you know, after you lose, you feel like everything's bad. You're bad, your players are bad, everything's bad. The refereeing is bad, everything's bad. The next morning you have a better idea of what's going on, and you say, okay, these are the things we need to work on. So when you address the team, with specific things, not to berate them, but to teach them. Now, there's one caveat to that. If you feel like your team didn't put forth the effort, so if the effort wasn't there, and sometimes not physically, sometimes it's mentally, the effort wasn't there, you're blasting your team. You're blasting your team.
Yeah, effort's a big one for me. It's interesting because I often talk about not wanting to be a motivator, uh,
Right.
but it's the unfortunate truth that it's part of the job. It's one of the many hats that we obviously wear. So, I mean, to summarize from my viewpoint, what you're saying basically is the only time that you're really visibly bothered is when effort didn't appear to be there. Other than that, it's clearly just teaching points. And
Right.
do you keep a record or a file similar to what you do with scouting reports on post game reports as well?
Yeah. Everything goes into the folder. So, especially when you play a team so many times, you should have notes from each game. So, like for example, even the box score, I'll circle certain things, or assistants will circle certain things, or put a note. So all of those things you look at when you're playing the team again. So
Right.
but it's not formal. It's kind of like, you have notes all over the place, and you just read through it, and you compose a scouting report, when you're playing this team again, of the previous notes that you had. So it's just taking a whole bunch of information. That's it. I mean, shoot, we're not surgeons here. What we do is not that serious. It's basketball. So you're just
Love it.
taking a whole bunch of notes so that you can prepare your team. But all of what we're saying is great. If the other team got better players than you do all the things you can, you're gonna get your what beat. You
For sure.
know, so
For
that's
sure.
all you got to you got, and that's why I say the players on the court have to have some type of input. They have to feel confident. So when you give them responsibility to be a part of the scouting report, to be a part of the in-game adjustments, they're going to take it more seriously, and they're going to feel more empowered, to do what they're supposed to do.
Love it. I have nothing more from the question part. If anybody has some questions for Coach before I move into some of the video, please feel free to unmute and jump in. If not, Coach, I'm going to just share my screen here and get set up for some of this film.
Okay.
Give me a second here. As I mentioned, I pulled about, I think it's 11 clips from this game. So not a ton of stuff, but there's a few questions in here that I typically ask. So some of the run it back viewers will be familiar with some of them. And then there's a few that are just some specific things that I noticed from the game that I wanted to ask your opinion or your style upon. So as I mentioned, for anybody who's listening in, I will try my best to describe a clip for you. For anybody who's watching, hopefully you can see this. Coach, is this size good for you? Is the
This is
playback?
perfect. This is fine.
Okay.
This is fine. In fact, I know what I'm going to say.
All right. Okay, so
I
we're
have
in.
one question, Coach.
Okay, jump.
Coach, during games, what kind of responsibilities are your assistant coaches on the sideline outside of your usual stats and stuff? Is anybody allowed to make subs? Are you the only person to make subs? How does that work with your assistant?
Well, again, that's a great question because each coach is different. I give my staff uh, shared responsibility for. I give the assistant, which happens to be Coach White, who coaches the guards. He's responsible for subbing in guards. I give my uh, this year it was Coach Beecham, my student assistant, the responsibility to sub in bigs because he works with the bigs, and Coach Caruso, who's the stats guy, he's the guy that says, hey, this person's got, this person's in foul trouble, or this person's been playing this many minutes. We may want to give them a quick breather. So I get on them for not subbing, when I feel like, hey, I won't say, hey, we need to sub out such and such, such and such. I'll say, hey, such and such is tired. Or I'll say, hey, we need to get, our guards in for our guards, or we need to get our bigs in for our bigs. So I tell them all the time, you guys, we coach together. So you have just as much, responsibility, in our substitution pattern and what we run. I want to hear from them. I don't want to just be the only one, speaking. Now, do I have veto power? Of course. But with that said, if you're telling me to call something and I don't see it, just tell me why. And once you tell me why, more than likely I'm going to lean towards you because it's another thought process that I'm not thinking about.
Love it, sir. So Carolyn had actually asked me to ask a question on her behalf because she said her roommate is vacuuming. And I do actually think you touched on this a little bit, so maybe she missed part of it. But basically, she had asked how much of a change in tactics, if any, took place from the day before game specifically to this game, like the 1 day turnaround type deal. And I do think you topically went on it, but maybe she was just looking for a little bit more detail in that answer.
Believe it or not, so that's why I say I know what I'm going to say when you show the clip. We actually had a play that we put in just for this game. So we never ran it before. We never ran it after this game, but we put in this play just for this game based on film study. Not just the previous games that we played this team, but the night before. So this was actually a specific game just for Tuskegee on the night of the 24th because of how they guarded a certain action that you're going to see.
I love it. So let's move into the clip. I think that's a great segue. And I think maybe you can give Carolyn a bit more of an answer as you're going through it. But I mean, basically, I pulled this. It's the first clip of the game offensively for you guys. Starts as a horn set. It looks like a stagger away, and then your forward attacks, and they help ball side. So he gives it to him, and you end up hitting the three to start the game. So again, for anybody listening in, first first play of the game, looks like a horn set. Looks like a forward entry to the offensive right slot, and then stagger away, and they end up helping off of the ball side when that forward attacks, and pass to the wing or the corner, I suppose, for the open three, which he hits. Coach, take it away. Tell me what you see. Tell me what you were trying to establish by putting this in. All yours.
So that wasn't the play. So number 24 ran the play wrong. So what's supposed to happen, we have a play that we have similar action. We call it motion flex. I mean, everybody knows my plays anyway, where the point guard goes off of it's a horn set. He goes off of a back screen, fade screen, and he goes into flex action. So we were actually trying to show that entry because we didn't have our point guard initially run it. We had our wing initially play the position of our point because we knew that they would not help off of our point guard. So we wanted to actually get our other wing, Josh Jerome, number 2, an open shot. So 24 was supposed to set a fade screen for 23. That went into the stagger. So that was all kind of decoy action. So again, this is why you trust players. 22, who has the ball, Jordan Simpson, he saw that the play kind of broke down, that 24 went and set the stagger too early. So he did what players are supposed to do. He attacked the basket. I teach them all the time. If you're getting pressured, the play breaks down, you have the ball, you're in control, go make a play, which means go attack the defense. So we didn't expect 3 that you see how he's face guarding 4. We didn't expect him to do that.
Right.
Because 22 is attacking the basket, he left our best three-point shooter open. So it kind of worked the way we wanted because we kept him in the corner and he was supposed to occupy 3 and have us go 4-on-4 on the opposite side. But because 22 attacked and 3 tried to help, which I'm sure his coach didn't want him to do that either, because
Right.
he's clearly face guarding 4. So the
Right.
fact that he turns his hips, try to stop the ball, where they always say never help in the corner. Well, this is first play of the game. They helped.
This is why.
This is why.
Especially not off of their best shooter type deal.
Yep.
So, I mean, you don't get the play that you want out of it. Do you provide any feedback, or do you pat your guys on the back and say, good read, good job?
That's what you say, because when you practice against your teammates, the same plays every day, they're going to cheat it.
They're going to cheat.
You're going to have to make plays.
100% they're going to cheat the play.
They're going to cheat it. So you have to teach your guys, you got to make plays. So what I liked was that he still looked at the opposite side where the stagger was coming from, but because the stagger happened too quickly, so Tuskegee was able to guard that action, he had to make a play. And he was attacking with his weak hand, his right hand. So I was impressed with that too. So he knew where to go with the ball, which was attack that gap. If there wasn't going to be any help, he was going to be in the post by himself anyway. So he made a play. And that's what I want to teach. I want to teach my players how to play. Again, it doesn't matter what you draw up. If you don't have guys that make plays, whatever you draw up is not going to be successful. Eventually, it's gonna come down to, can you make a play? I'm not one of those coaches that thinks that the guys with the uniform, they come to see me coach, and the guys with the uniforms is secondary show. Now they're the show. I'm the guy that's just supporting them.
Yeah, those are facts. I agree, Coach Huff. Those are facts. I actually always say to my guys, like,
shout out to Voorhees College, by the way. First year Coach Huff goes to the national tournament.
Yeah, big time. He's actually his run it back is coming out very soon as well. So I was very pleased to share some time with him. And an excellent guest, just like yourself. But huge shout out to Coach Huff, of course. So what I was going to say, I say this to my guys all the time. I say it in practice. I say it in games. If I draw something up and you have a layup, screw my play. Go take that layup.
Exactly.
But if you're going to make those choices to forget what we're trying to do as a team, you better be right too. So there is a balance in there. Be correct about what you're doing. But if there's something that's quite a bit simpler, just as you've mentioned several times, you're out there, you see it, you make that play.
That's right. And the biggest thing is that when we do drills, when we go over sets, we don't do anything that's going to be, what I tell my guys all the time, don't be a robot. So when we do drills, we're doing game simulated action. So we work, I coach the bigs. We work on rip throughs, because more than likely a big man with the ball, top of the key or at the lane line is what we call it, he's not going to get pressured. So if you do get pressured, you got to learn how to rip through and attack that guy's top foot, make him get inside his hips, get that leverage to the basket. And then you're still going to have to be able to jump stop, make a pass with 2 hands. I hate one-handed passes, and make a pass where a guy can catch it and shoot it at the same time. So all those things we work on.
Love it. Moving into the next clip, this is you guys on offense again. There's some turnout screens here, or floppy action, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Wing entry to the offensive right side. There's a bit of a UCLA cut/screen, catches it sort of in the short corner and hits this mid-range jump shot. It's early in the game. Reason I pulled this clip is, first off, exactly as you drew it up, Coach. And second off, what are your thoughts on shot selection and the mid-range in general, and that whole discussion towards that effect? How do you feel about this and the outcome that you have? Obviously not being married to the result of the ball going in the basket.
Well, number 4 for us is Malik Parker. So he shot 9 shots in the first half. You want to know why he shot 9 shots in the first half? And again, not talking about the play specifically, because he was hot. So that first play of the game, he hit a 3. So take away coach's hat, put on the player's hat. You hit your first shot in the game and it's a 3. Oh man, it's going up tonight. I feel good. So this is actually a staple play of ours. This is one of the first plays that we put in, one of the first plays that we rep in our individuals. is called guard series. So basically, it's a series of options. That is the third option. This play has probably about 10, 11 options. That's number 3. So after this floppy entry, there's a UCLA cut. The ball's supposed to go top of the key so we can read the backside. And then there's supposed to be a guard-to-guard pin down. But because 4 was hot, and you can always tell a player when they're feeling hot. That's not a shot we practice in the short corner, but he, as soon as he touched it and he took that rhythm dribble, you could tell he
said
had
that's
a
going in.
That's exactly. So you can't get mad at your leading scorer for taking a shot when he's feeling it, because he barely saw the basket. I'm just glad that they got to the back screen part. A lot of times the guard will not allow this big to set this back screen. So the back screen is the UCLA screen, obviously, is so that the big can get open. But for whatever reason, his teammate, hit him with this pass, and he said, "Okay, go to work." I feel like he can get a better shot because you see that he's having to fade away, but he was hot, and they were early in the set. They didn't even look at the opposite side, but the way the team was guarding it, I guess he felt he was hot. I thought the big was open at the lane line where we could have gotten a high-low action, or we could have gotten a reversal on the backside. But, when you're hot, this is just because he hit his first 3.
So Brant actually made a funny comment in there where he said, "That's one of those oh, nice shot, my dude." Like that's absolutely one of those moments. What about from like a constructive criticism or good to great shot mentality after game at another time? Would this be something that would make film and you would talk to them about this shot selection, etc., or would you just let it go because the result was beneficial type deal?
No, we addressed this. This gets addressed at halftime. This is what's open. Why are we selling for that? So there's a reason why the first thing I said was he shot 9 shots. So this is
right.
We had 8 assists, 7 turnovers in the first half. So this is a play that I say, hey Malik, we can get this shot any time. You see how early it is in the game.
Right.
Why are we shooting that at this point in the game? That's not a good shot. Right. And I don't care if it goes in because you're 4 of 9 right now. But if their defense is forcing us to take these type of shots, they're winning. We're not. So the second half,
I agree.
He was, for the game, he was 10 of 19, which means he was 6 of 10. So he was a little bit more efficient in the second half, but he shot 6 threes in the first half. He shot 6 in the second half. He was consistent. He was 2 of 6 in the first half. He was 4 of 12 for the game. But and he shot 12 threes. That's a lot of threes. But that's a case where I guess his translation was, okay, coach, you don't want me to shoot that shot, so I'll shoot threes in the second half. But this is where I'm letting him know, hey, let's see how the defense is going to guard this set, because it eventually is going to lead to a ball screen for him to come off and shoot a better shot. Either come off and shoot a 3 off the ball screen or get in the teeth of the defense. But you want the ball going sideline to sideline, top of the key to the baseline. And let's not put all the blame on Malik. Why did we make that pass? Again, that screen is to get our big open at the top of the key. Why did you even make that pass? He wasn't open. So give kudos, to Malik to give this Rodney Hunter an assist when that pass shouldn't have been made. That pass is only made when he has a lane to the basket to make a layup. He didn't have a lane to the basket to make a layup. That pass should have gone to the lane line to number 22 so we can read the backside of the defense.
And I apologize. I think I had misinterpreted your initial answer. I think what you just said, and probably what I misinterpreted as well, tie in quite a bit more to even the comment in the chat about like holding our guys responsible for that kind of shot and holding everybody accountable for making that pass, etc. I agree very much with the statement that you said, hey, we can get this at any time. But I mean, ultimately, you pat the guy on the back and say, nice shot, but that's a hard shot. And I want to shoot as many easy shots as possible within a game. That's just me, and that's the way that I feel about it overall.
Now, this is if there's 6 seconds left in the game, it's a great shot because your best player who's in rhythm has a shot. But this early in the game, and I know, again, if you haven't played basketball, you can coach all you want, but there's certain things there's certain nuances you're not gonna understand unless you played, basketball to understand. I know why he shot that shot. So me saying, hey, why would you shoot that? I know what the answer is going to be. It's either going to be, coach, you're right, or it's going to be, coach, I made the shot. I'm feeling it. So rather than me getting on him and saying, hey, why'd you shoot that? I'm going to say, hey, we can get a better shot. So you're 4-9. You probably could have been 4-6 and had a couple more assists if we run our offense. Right. So you kind of make it where you don't want to kill his confidence because you need him to make that type of shot late in the game. I don't care what you run. That's a good shot late in the game because defenses are going to take away whatever you think is going to be open. But at the same time, you don't want him shooting that early in the game.
Definitely a balance. I agree. So this one is one of you guys on the defensive side. I've actually kind of clipped the initial part, but it starts with a bust out over half court. Okay. And it's a handoff to the right wing. And then he rejects what looks like it's going to be an ice, but the person who's coming to set the screen defender's not in a position to ice. Right. And it looks like your ball handler your ball defender that is switched on to the ball handler is setting up to ice. So there's a reject and he gets in the paint. He shoots a little dribble, a little floater in there that just kind of trickles in. Talk to me not only about where the breakdown happens on the handoff and the position of screen defender, but also talk to me about your collapse and your rotations of what you would typically do, because it looks to me like your most important guy or your low man is a little bit late. And I don't know if you would peel switch or X out on the help side. It also looks like your ball side corner is pulled all the way in as well on this one. So give me the rundown of everything that you see on this one, please.
Well, the first thing is we're switching everything. So 24, who's the top guy, top defender, who switched out on the ball handler, he's a forward. 23 we're kind of matching up with Tuskegee where we're going 4 guards. So he moved from the wing to the 4 spot. So right. 2 things. Number one, 24 is given too much of a gap. It's actually not ice coverage. It's just we pin guys to the sidelines. We push them to the corner. So his feet are supposed to be pushing the ball handler to the corner. But if you do that, you got to have support. There's absolutely no support from 15. And I tell them all the time, we call it early defense, because if you're not in position early, you're going to have to scramble. So 15, which is ball side corner defender, he's out of position. And obviously 2, who struggles, to play our defense, he's out of position because he should already be on the midline from the start. So if you're away from the ball, you should already be on the midline ready to help, because by the time I make a pass from the corner all the way to, from the wing all the way to the opposite corner, if I can't close out and meet him on that pass, then again, that's one of those, you won't be on the floor. You got to be able to move and you got to be able to anticipate. So just watching his shoulders, you should be able to move. Even if he fakes it, I can step over there. And if he doesn't release the ball, I can recover back to the midline. So that's number one. Our help side defense is poor. Our ball side defense is poor because 24 should never give such a gap and a path to the basket. But where's his support? 15 is not giving any support because we help with our hip. So if his right hip and his right foot is more towards the ball, then that ball handler is not going to attack it so hard. He's going to kind of hesitate, which will allow 24 to recover and stay in front of the ball. So that's a breakdown of all 5 guys. Even 4 is out of position because 4 should be helping more to the ball as well, because 3's not going to beat you if he's standing next to the referee. 3 is not a threat right now. the ball's a threat. The ball's going to the basket. We got to protect the basket. So we have to be there in position. Now, 24 will break down. He needs support from 15. 15 might break down. He needs support from that backside defender who's the last defender. And just in case 2 can't make it to the corner, guess whose responsibility is to get to the corner? Number 4. So if everybody's, working together, even when you have a breakdown like this, which you will have, you should be able to recover because the pass should be forced to the corner, and 4 should be on his way to take the ball to the corner and allow 2 to get his at the top.
Right. So, Coach, let me summarize just before I get to the chat. I think my crude annotations sort of describe what you were saying there. Do they look fairly correct to you in terms of?
Oh no, perfect.
So
on point.
Appreciate. Thank you. This gentleman that's in the corner, I would call in an ideal world, you want him on the line, up the line, so to speak, where his help is his position.
Correct. I tell him when I say help with your hips, you see how he's now facing the ball handler. That should never happen if you're in help defense. You should always be perpendicular, or you should always be cutting into the path of the ball handler, not opening up your hips. Basically, if you look at his hips, he's giving you a lane to the basket with that type of defensive footwork, where he should be more in front of the ball, making that guy stop his dribble, making that guy make that pass to the corner.
I have a couple questions about that. So in an ideal world, if he's standing right there on the line, up the line, so to speak, what does this closeout to the corner look like for you guys?
We practice that. So if you're helping with your hip, you should be able to read where that next pass is going to be. So I tell them all the time, if you're reading a ball handler's hips and shoulders, if he's making that pass to the corner, his hips automatically, his shoulders automatically are going to turn towards where he's passing. While he's doing that, your momentum should be getting ready to close out to that corner so that you can meet that pass at the same time. Now, I can't show you my mouse, but he's not only out of position with his angle, he's out of position with his level. So you do that circle more in the brown. He actually should be on the high school 3-point line.
Oh wow!
Because if he's on the high school 3-point line, his defender, his offensive player that he's guarding, he's gonna cut to the basket. So if he cuts to the basket, then 2, which he should be on the midline right now, should be anticipating that pass, and that'll be a steal. So we force you to go back door, but we force you to go back door because we have help backside. We would prefer you to go back door than for you to throw it and catch and shoot. So we heavy help to push you to the corner so that when you go back door, 2's waiting for that backdoor pass. And again, we practice that.
And when 2 is waiting for that, so for anybody who's watching, this gentleman should be right about there on the rim line, and then should be meeting it outside, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Do you then trap down from there typically?
You know what? I don't like to trap at all, but the players do, because they can kind of feel that guy's, nervousness or his panic. So I give them, the autonomy to know, we do practice what happens if we do trap our rotations, but I don't like to trap because I feel you're trapping because you're lazy. You can pressure the ball on your own, or you're trapping because you feel like, okay, I don't have to worry about my guy. Let me just go, be that second defender with my teammate to see if this guy's going to make a poor pass or turn the ball over. When you're playing good teams, they'll beat you. They'll find that open guy. So I don't like to trap action.
So we've got a few in the chat, and I have one more question about this clip, and I'm happy that it's brought up some discussion for sure. Mike DeCracker mentions the importance of stunting forward, as you described, as we are all stunting sideways. And then Coach Huff says, what hurts you in your heavy help, as you call it? What really, I mean, obviously beyond a breakdown for sure, but like what are the things that you've identified as pretty good counters to what you guys are doing?
Teams that hurt us are teams, especially teams that have 5 guys on the floor that can shoot. Teams that hurt us from the 3-point line more so than it will hurt us in the paint, because our defensive principle is no middle. The ball should never, like, the fact that this ball is going into the paint, it makes me cringe because we don't allow that. So literally, if you run to the next clip in the game, you're probably going to see me look at my bench, look at my staff to say, get them the you know what out of there, because they let the ball go middle.
Right.
It's going to be number 2 needs to sit down, 24 needs to sit down, 15 needs to sit down. Those 3 guys need to get out the game right now, and they need to be blasted for allowing the ball to go middle. So more than likely, teams that don't backdoor, teams that can catch and shoot with a contested hand, that's what beats us the most.
Like it.
But with that being said, we're 4th in the country in defensive field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage. Last year, we were 5th in the country in defensive field goal percentage. So we kind of eliminate those 3-point shots by having your arms out, ready for that next pass. We anticipate passes. You can't heavy help without support, and you can't heavy help without your hands being out. That's another thing. How many guys have their hands out? So that's a breakdown.
I got a question about that, and I'm going to ask after Brant's question because Brant said he had a quick question. Jump in, sir.
Coach Brant Daniels here in North Alabama. We do a lot of the same no middle. We're hard no middle. So obviously this is a ball screen, but I was just curious to some of the breakdown stuff you guys do to not get driven from the top. Just we struggle with that a little bit in, we're so hard forcing baseline from the wing that a lot of times the stances and the areas that come with that carry over into that top kind of slot area. Just kind of curious to what you guys do to rep that out.
Coach, that's a great question. And that's goes back to what I said earlier. That's my game day. So in practice, we have a drill where we're simulating this ball handler. We call it weak side interchange. So we have 2 defenders. They're guarding there are 2 guys at the wing and in the corner. We'll have a coach at the top of the key, and we do it from a different angle, but it's the same concept. So we'll attack, down the middle. That top defender, he has to have his arms out, helping with his hip, force me to make that pass, but be at an angle where he can take away that pass with his defensive hand that's closer to the ball in the passing lane, so that the top offensive guy has to backdoor. So if this top guy backs door, then you have to have help for the backdoor cut, which is this bottom defender in the corner, number 15. So we practice switching that where he's bumping that guy, not allowing a face cut. And then if that guy, that the offensive guy in the corner replaces that guy that backdoor to the top of the key, he also has to take away that pass. Now, a lot of times that pass does happen. So now we practice the closeouts. So as that pass happens, we teach to chop your feet, close out, hands up, because teams can shoot the 3. And then the bottom defender 15, as he's closing out to as his teammates closing out to the ball, he's closing out to the gap with his hands out, ready to take away that pass to the corner to make that corner guy backdoor as well.
And ignore my crude sketch. I think I had the spacing wrong from what you were describing. I apologize. My last question on this one was just on the weak side here. This player you had mentioned, he was kind of out of position. Probably something like that would be ideal for you.
So if you can, draw a line from the ball to his defender. I think that's the best way to show it. That's the best you can. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect.
His offensive player, you mean, right here?
There you go.
Yeah.
So we teach you have to be in the middle of that line, just below that line, but your hands have to be touching that line. So if you draw the line from the ball to every offensive player on the court, every defensive player should be just below that line with their hands being able to be across that line. So what does that force? That forces a pass over the top. That forces a pass towards the half court line. But where's the ball not going? It's not going towards the basket, and it's not going middle.
Like it. So then my question was, in this scenario where you unfortunately break down and give up this, and you would want this defender to step up, and you end up in some sort of peel type switching, I would assume, with
Right.
the ideal place of him being there, he's probably on a pass to the corner. He's probably your first closeout.
There you go.
My question would be, who's your second closeout? Is it the beaten ball defender or is it the low man?
The beaten ball defender is gonna, if the ball gets, it depends on where so we're assuming the ball gets skipped out to the corner, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so 24, who's getting beat right now, now he replaces 23. So now 23 has to close out there. 2 and 24 have to decide which one of these two, the young man with the ball, I believe is number 2, and the young man for Tuskegee is trying to set the screen. 2 and 24, if the ball's in the corner, have to decide who they're guarding. Well, 2's already baseline, so he gets the low guy. 24, who's a little bit a little bit above him, has a top guy. So our defense is designed to switch as you close out and as you make that second pass or rotation, because it's a position defense, not a per se you have to guard that man defense. Like, the guys that struggle the most in our system always say, "Coach, I'm guarding 3." Well, if we're broken down, you're not guarding 3, you're guarding that spot. So whoever's there, you adjust to whoever's there.
Gotcha. Like it. Thank you. Next clip for you. This guy is an offensive clip. And
Coach, let's go back to the defensive clips, man. There's a reason why the defensive clips were longer.
Absolutely. I sense a little bit more love on that side for sure. This is an interesting one to me. This is in the first half. You guys are up 3, last 3 minutes of that first half, and there's a entry to the wing who's coming up, and then this turns into a ball screen that I would call a step up, so moving towards the sideline. And I don't know if their plan was to hedge in this direction or to trap in this direction, but they overcommit, and then you guys short roll and you're playing 4-on-3 in the back. I noticed the cut happens from the double side, and your big makes a great pass to the second side for the open look. You nail it. So I had a lot of questions about this. I mean, did you anticipate that they were going to demonstrate this kind of pressure moving in a step up type screen?
Yes.
Because I hadn't really seen that in anything to this point in this game. And then what are some of your teaching points on the short roll? Do you always cut from the double side? Did he roll the right amount or too deep? And how happy are you that he's making such a great pass to the second side?
Well, again, go back to players. There's no coincidence that you've shown 2 offensive clips and the same guy had the assists, 22.
Right.
So he's a very good passer, but more than anything, he's a ball player. So first of all, there's a breakdown. So this ball screen shouldn't have happened. It should have been a reversal. But 4, as you can tell, 4 likes to have the ball in his hands. So
right.
So
I know a player or 2 like that.
Yeah. So if you go back to the start, so the floppy set that you shown was a big staple of ours, guard series. It's a basic offense. We have many options out of that. This is another staples set that we run. It's a dribble handoff. Many teams run it. You can dribble handoff or ball screen out of this action. But all it is a dribble handoff. The wing guard, after the reversal to this opposite big, is supposed to cut through. Well, you see who doesn't know their plays. So right here, 4 should have been getting rid of the ball. 22 is waiting for a reversal, but he knows I'm not getting a reversal. So what he should actually do is we should break off the play. 22 should flatten out, and 22 should pick a post, whether it be weak side or ball side, and that will signal to the other four guys on the court. Okay, we have what's called a triangle formation, where we have a high guy at the top of the key. We have a ball handler that has the option of keeping the ball side guard in the corner or pushing him through the weak side. So he went into the ball screen because I think he's trying to see that four, kind of with his body language is saying, hey, set a screen. If you roll, I'm going to either attack the basket or attack you on the roll. But here's the problem. The problem is the two guards in the strong side corner are running the play. So what's supposed to happen is,
Right.
after this reversal of 22, 20 setting the back screen for 15, 20's looking to pop so we can go to the continuation of our set, which is 23. So that doesn't happen. So you see 15's trying to cut, but then he can't cut because he's taking away 22's role. So
Right.
he stops. He should have stopped earlier, because after the ball screen, we do what's called bouncing the floor. So he should have stopped earlier. So you see that there's nobody in the paint right now. So 15 is actually the guy that's open. So what 15 should have done was he should have recognized that quicker, and he should have cut off of 20's back. He'd have had a pass. If we look at this reversal, he'd have had a shot at the wing. That doesn't happen, but at least he knows not to cut across the paint. So 22 again is just making a play. So he sees the trap. He sees his guys hedging out too hard. So he's expecting the pass, and he's taught to look basket first. He sees the help and read the help. He sees that it's a poor pass, first of all, but it was poor enough for him to help to read his weak side. So he sees immediately that 2 is open. So he makes the pass. So it shouldn't have been a ball screen. It was a poor pass out of the post, and he ends up with the assist. So kind of hint on who I thought our best player was this year, doesn't it?
A little bit, yes. But I mean, great players make great plays, right?
There you go.
I like the short roll. I like the second side. I like the spacing and figuring it out when things break down, for sure.
Correct. And you see, and not to cut you off, 15 shouldn't be there. You see, he's in no man's land. Like,
right.
He knows not to cut, but why would you stop there? You know, like, you shouldn't be there. And see, this is where if I'm in practice, I'm not yelling at anybody else but 15, because, okay, 15, why are you there? There's a reason why you should be there. Well, coach, I'm trying to bounce the floor to get across. Yeah, well, you got to do it quicker. So stay in the corner or read what there's nobody guarding him. His man is the one that helps on the ball. So why are you going, to the baseline? It's not like we could throw you a lob pass. Do what you do best. Go to that, top of the wing area and push 20 down to the corner, where after we make that reversal, you have an open shot.
Like it. We get into a defending clip next, and it's the last play of the half. And what I noticed is that you guys very briefly just jumped into a 2-3 here.
Yes.
So I didn't see very many clips at all in this game. The result, I mean, obviously, you're probably not going to love the end result of them making this shot, but talk to me about how willing you are to just jump into zone when you make adjustments, what you saw here that made you decide you were going to do it, and how you feel you executed on your call.
Well, I believe this was after a timeout, because you see the shot clock and the game clock. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to take a rush shot at the end of the clock. I didn't expect them to shoot a shot so quickly, because I'm trying to make this the last possession for them. So I'm going into zone to try to keep the ball from, going past most teams go zone so that they can keep the ball around the perimeter. So right. You see the pass is going towards the perimeter. Two things. Number one, if you stop it right there, a lot of teams run what we'll call a 1-3-1 zone offensive look, where they'll put their big at the free throw line, and have two shorters on opposite wings and have obviously the ball handler at the top. So it's very important to know who's guarding that guy at the free throw line. So 4 has a breakdown because the most dangerous person on the floor is their leading scorer, number 3, Greg Boyd. And I specifically told them, do not let him catch and shoot. So there's no reason for him to be looking at guarding 15 at the free throw line. He should be taking away that pass from 3 just with his positioning. Doesn't have to face guard him, but if he's just there, if the pass does come to 3, 3 has to step up towards the half court line to get a reversal, and then he can go ahead and close out and guard him. But in doing that, that burns the clock, and eventually they're going to panic where they're either going to drive into the defense or they're going to put up a bad shot. So that's the first breakdown. He shouldn't be guarding.
Can I jump in 1 second? Would it be fair to say that the ideal way to guard him would be the same way that you described in man,
Yes.
where if you drew the line, he should be slightly below the line, 50%, touching it with one hand, so to speak?
Coach, you could play for me because that's exactly what our zone is. It's just zone with man principles. So 4, if this were man, this would be bad defense, right?
Right.
So he has a breakdown. The other thing is, I tell our guys all the time, and I coach the bigs. So as much as I get on 4, I'm gonna get on 33 more, because 33 is not talking. Because if he's talking, 4 is not there. 33 should be telling 4, stay up. I got the free throw line.
Right.
And then the last thing is, there's no ball pressure. Even though the ball is that far out, whoever is guarding the ball, which is 13 should have a hand. He should be in a defensive stance. He should have an arm bar. We call it an arm bar with a step so that you don't get beat, locked in on his waist so that the ball handler has to rush to make a decision. So there's a breakdown with those 3 guys. And then on the weak side, well, not the weak side now, I'm anticipating the ball going to 3, but on the strong side, 20 is in poor defensive position as well, because he should be up higher, kind of making his offensive guy come up more towards the half court line to make a reversal. But the breakdowns with 33 not communicating. 4 shouldn't be there. And we know that's a breakdown because the shooter is 3. And most teams, they're going to yell, shooter, shooter. So no one's paying attention to 3. Everybody's looking at the ball. And if you're watching the ball and not, what's going on defense, what's going to happen, especially with good players, is going to happen.
Right. Love it. Coach, just before I jump into the next clip, and Mike DeCracker is going to laugh at me, I want to be conscientious of your time. I asked you for 90 minutes of your time. We're a little bit beyond that now. I've got, I think it's 5 clips left. Are you still okay?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Hey, whenever you got me talking defense, time doesn't matter. This is how I am in practice. Oh, I can't say that's NCAA violation. So no, we don't go over our time in practice.
I don't even want to check the chat yet because I don't like making fun of me. So this isn't a real easy one. It is on the offensive side, but it's a real easy one. So they miss and you guys bust out and you got to pull up in transition 3. I ask every week, transition 3, yay or nay? What's that like on Coach Gayle's team?
Forcing a shot that shot. This shouldn't be called run it back. It should be called Malik Parker, you shoot bad shots. Stop shooting these shots. So again, you don't want to take away their confidence, but I believe that was a 4-on-2, maybe
looks like it might even be a 5-on-2.
Why are we shooting that? Now, to his credit, he probably thought we would get the rebound since we have the advantage as far as numbers.
Right.
To his credit. Also, I would hope to believe that if we were down or we were up, maybe single digits, he wouldn't shoot that shot. But to answer everybody's question, which I thought I did, that's a terrible shot.
So these guys are laughing about shot clocking people, but Mike the Cracker is saying, would you be okay if that is a catch and shoot? And I would elaborate on his question just because I ask this question every week, and it's a really interesting one to me that gets really different viewpoints a lot of the time, and it's such a simple question. But is there a way to shoot a transition three in Coach Gale's offense, and what does that look like? How do you earn that respect or that ability to do so?
Well, no. Don't get me wrong. I didn't say I didn't like transition threes.
Right.
I read the defense. So you tell me who in black is playing any defense. Uh, Three on the opposite side, he literally running back just to the line. He has no clue what's going on.
Right.
He's literally just there. So we're not making him pay for that. So if I'm coming down and I'm attacking the defense, I'm making a little flip pass to 23 that's looking at me, and three that's not playing any defense is either going to stop the ball or he's going to stun at the ball and try to take away this corner three with two and White who has his hand up. But we didn't make the defense pay for not playing any defense. I see in the chat that guys are saying, well, the spacing's bad. The spacing's bad because they're all running to basically run to the paint, and obviously we don't practice that. What should happen is you got two guards on the same side. That should never happen. So 23 should have pushed two through. But again, because those two defenders are playing such poor defense, we're not attacking that. So that's why it's a bad shot. I'm fine with transition threes. I'm fine if he shoots it off the dribble. I'm fine if he makes a pass to two in the corner. But again, the defense, they're not playing any defense. You got three guys in black. My guys aren't that fast now that they're jogging back. You got the two guys that are back, only one's really making an effort, and he's so deep in the paint that you see he's coming to close out. So a little hesitation dribble, you got him beat. So we're not attacking that. But what should happen is we should have one big running through the middle of the paint. We should have another big trailing the ball. We should have one guard. If he's already there, he should go through to the opposite side, and we should have the opposite guard running behind number two to space out to that side. But to their credit, they went in and got the offensive rebound and scored it anyway. I don't like that tip either.
They knew they were getting the hook if they didn't.
Well, I don't like that. I don't like that tip either. He made it a lot harder than he needed to be. Why are we shooting a one-handed tip back in? You could have caught it with two hands and put it in, or come down, power up. But again, look at the score. I think that had a lot to do with it.
For sure. This is another one in your floppy series. This is a turnout to a handoff. I was just wondering if this was a play call or if this was just simply guys making a quick pin down and read off of it. So there's, for anybody who's listening, it's actually not even a floppy set. I'm sorry for my description. It starts with a cut through, and that cut through just receives a pin down on the offensive right side of the floor. Comes and gets the ball in a handoff action and shoots like a sit behind three because they come under on it. So is this one of your quick hitters that you would call, or is this just guys trying to make a quick read in transition and settle in for an early shot again because you're up so much at this point?
Yeah, he settled. This is actually the same play that where we showed the hard hedge and the step up ball screen. So it's a dribble handoff. You see 20 who sets the pin down for 15. He's supposed to set that screen, cut through the opposite side. After 15 gets his handoff, he's supposed to come downhill and attack the paint. But he settled a lot for these type of shots. Once he attacks the paint, he's supposed to make the defense kind of stop him and then reverse it to the big, or the open guy, as you can see, is the opposite guard, 13, who should be, if he's going downhill with the ball, he should be floating to the corner and he'd have a wide open three. But he shoots the shot because the defense did go underneath. So I'm not saying it's a bad shot, but I think he settled, and he could have, even though the defense is underneath, they still don't stop him from getting in the paint, getting 2 feet in the paint and attacking that backside.
Like it. Next one. unless anybody had some questions. I think that one was pretty easy description, actually, Coach. Thank you for that. This is another offensive one. We're going to finish on a defensive clip, it looks like. So you'll be a happy guy there for sure. This is a handoff to mid ball screen. There's a hammer that happens on I believe it's the weak side of the floor when I watch this. Uh, and I'm just wondering how much of everything that happens is within your set. And then I love this pick and roll on the rescreen. He does a couple reverse pivots and gets it up. But for anybody who's listening, basically the action looks like this. The ball is in the center of the floor. Again, similar idea with the pin down on the offensive right side of the floor. Handoff and coming off of that handoff like a screen. Take it to the left side of the floor, and there's the hammer action. And I don't know if this is a missed ball screen in here or just kind of surprised at how low the ball handler is. And then after that hammer action happens, both those guys space and create a double side. And the gentleman who was surprised by how close he was rescreens, and it's a top ball screen basically at this side, going towards the single side. Your roller comes down the double side, makes a great catch, reverse pivots, gets it up on the glass, and tips it in. So, I mean, exactly how you drew it up, or what do you see here, Coach?
No, again, it's the same play as the last clip. And again, there's a
Right.
breakdown because of the handoff. So the key is the handoff. So right here, after he comes off the handoff, you see how wide he's going? He's supposed to be downhill. And if he goes downhill,
Right.
two's wide open because two's guy's not worried about him anymore. So two should be spaced out. He had a wide open shot he missed. 23 should never be there. 23 should be coming up the line to look for the reversal. And just like two clips before, if there's no reversal, it goes straight into a ball screen. So it's just a breakdown with how he took the handoff because he didn't force that help defender to guard him so he can kick it to two because two's the open guy. So what I like is that Ford didn't panic, although he shouldn't be there because the ball should already be reversed. So he didn't panic. He just kind of strung out the dribble and it led to a ball screen. So as you can tell, anytime we have a breakdown, we have two different things you can do. We can do a ball screen, or we can go to what we call a triangle where we have a post, a high post, and then the ball side guard can either stay corner or we push him through to the opposite corner.
Love it.
And because
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying because of the defense was guarding the perimeter because all those guys on the court are guards. So they were more, worried about, a pass to the corner, to the wing than they were a roll. And 23, who's just a big guard, does a good job of rolling and getting the ball up and then going to get his own rebound.
So on this set that I've managed to pull twice, which is basically the pin down into the handoff type action to start with, and then you want your guard to come off very tight and get downhill as you mentioned, and then your handoff guy probably curves his roll or pops depending on his skill set. But what is the ideal location and how do you teach that to your guys for this handoff?
Great question. So two is a guard that's playing the four, or now the five, really. 23 is a guard that's playing the four. So I teach my bigs to make this handoff at the elbow. You want to attack the elbow. So they're making a handoff too far out, number one. Number two, four doesn't set up the handoff. Four shouldn't even be coming for a handoff. Four should be backdooring, making his defender flatten out to get a better angle off the handoff. So if you can't see four initially, but you can tell he doesn't give any depth in the handoff. So that's why he couldn't go downhill. It started with setting up the handoff by stepping in, making that guy respect the backdoor cut to come off that handoff. The second thing is at the start, we don't teach our guys to dribble the ball on the reversal. So if you go back all the way to the start, once two catches the ball, he doesn't have to dribble. He can just hold it right there, wait for you to go through to set up that angle to attack. So those are breakdowns that happen when there's 13 minutes in the game and you're up 14.
Right. It's personally as a coach, I find no more difficult a time to run your stuff than when you have a large lead.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Guys just start like, what are we doing right now?
Exactly. And I'm most frustrated because you just want the clock to go. And these are the things. Remember, I said mental notes I have in the back of my head. So the next day watching film, these are the things that I'm addressing. We don't practice that.
For sure. So the next one's a pretty easy one. It's a simple action that is, I would call like a wedge screen to bring your post player in
Right.
at the same time that there's a handoff on the wing. The wedge screen to bring your post player in clearly is to establish him, get a shot, which he does. What are your other options or go-tos within an action like this if your post player is denied or if your guard doesn't feel comfortable making that entry, which is becoming a lost art in my opinion? We don't know how to throw the ball into the post any longer. But what are other options with this particular action for you?
So after this back screen, the ball, we want to, this is where we could talk about our triangle action. So 15 has the ball on the wing, 4 should be deeper corner. We want to isolate whoever's going to help in the post, which is that backside defender in black. So we want to have 23 on what's called a lane line or the same line as our post player. So basically 4 out, 1 in, and we want to read where the defense is helping. So if they're helping backside, obviously you want to skip it backside. If they're pinching in by one of the guards, that's on ball side, obviously it's a quick reversal to the corner for a shot. If they're helping from that high post area, obviously that high post player can now either, take that, comfortable shot or attack the backside with a dribble handoff where we attack the weak side. So we just want to get the spacing. That's the biggest thing.
Right. Would it be fair to say that when there's a percentage of the time, obviously, you're running this action to get the ball to your post to score.
Right.
But would it say that there's also a large percentage of the time that you're posting to pass?
Correct. And his job, he goes early because I think he feels that no one's helping. But his job, I teach my bigs, when you catch it in the post, chin it, because you're reading. There's rules that happens when the ball goes in the post. So what should be happening, 15 and 4 should be interchanging. 23 should be diving, cutting that his defender's face. And 20 on the backside should be relocating to the backside, what we call backside lane line. So as that's happening, our post player can read where the double team's coming from. So those two guys should be interchanging.
Was between these two?
Yep, those two guys should be interchanging. He should be diving and flattening out backside short corner, and backside 20 should be relocating.
And the relocate, so we call this creating a window or an opportunity. It could really be in either direction, but it's probably up, so to speak.
It's up. It's only going to you. The only time you would go opposite of coming up is if this help defender takes that away. So if he feels like, okay, I'm going to run through this pass, should be a backdoor cut. You got to lay up.
Right. Gotcha. And those are absolutes for you. You don't say burn your worst shooter between the two of them. It's always the one position is diving and the other position is relocating, so to speak.
No. We actually, you play off of it. So if I'm diving and I can set a pin down for my backside guard, do it. Or if I'm supposed to relocate, but I see my defenders cheating and I can set a little back screen for whoever's diving, do that. If the guys that are interchanging, they can screen for each other. So again, you teach them how to play.
Love it. Thanks both Mike DK and for the comment, and Coach Huff for joining. It was great.
Coach Huff, I got to take you to lunch, Coach Huff, so I can sit down and spend 2 hours learning from you.
We got 2 more, Coach. This one was a very intriguing set to me. There was what I call a butler cut in here. So there's a top screen and roll that results in nothing, and we get a wing entry. Mm-hmm. And then here is what looked like was probably supposed to still be the UCLA from the beginning of the game, but turns into a Butler cut where he cuts to the corner, results in a baseline drive.
Yep.
And then what I found really intriguing about this is this player up here that I would call your drift player, typically who's being guarded by the low man or the most important guy, makes like a lift or a shallow cut up to the other slot in an attempt to remove the help. This is clearly by design.
Yep.
So, I mean, talk me through it in terms of
This is
execution and action and what you're looking for on that.
This is a Tuskegee staple, Coach Taylor staple. He calls this twirl. So what's supposed to happen is a floppy entry. You see both sides setting pin downs, a reversal to the wing, a kind of a decoy UCLA cut that's supposed to lead 10 to the corner, which he goes. 10 makes a great read. He catches and rips through, because what's supposed to happen is a back screen for I believe that's 15 that makes the pass to him. So what's supposed to happen is that there's a ball screen that's supposed to happen, but he does a great job of reading our defense because 15 is not playing any. You see, he's still standing up as he goes through. Again, we don't allow that. We don't do that. We don't practice that. Get in your stance. And then 2, because of that little pin down on the backside, he's being, instead of us switching that, which is what should have happened so he can stay in the help side, he's so worried about that he loses sight of the ball. So that's a great job of execution by Coach Taylor's team.
Love it. And forgive me, I obviously described it from the offensive perspective. I was up late last night, so this one obviously I took on the wrong perspective. I'm sorry for that. But
no, you're fine. You're fine.
You're low man here, not lifting with that shallow cut. Right. What do you think of your execution on that and where you're helping from? Would this be the way that you would like it ideally when you're scouting this? Or I mean, like, it's a difficult action to guard. And if you are going to help from there, what are you doing about the guy who's lifting if he's a shooter? How do you counter that?
So 15, when he gets beat, he knows to automatically help the helper. So 2 now is essentially guarding the ball, not 15. So like I always say in film, who are you guarding? Coach, I'm guarding. No, you're not guarding the ball. 2's guarding the ball right now. So you should be seeking out who's 2 guarding. So 2 will be guarding 2 in black because he's the one setting the pin down and he's the lowest guy on that backside. And so 15 should be adjusting to him. 4 should be staying with 24.
Love it. And then our last one, we'll finish it off with a clip on the defensive side. This had to do with a reject. So there was let me go back just a bit here. Sorry, my screen was blurred on that one. We've got a wing entry and we got a handoff to the corner. And as we come up, it's similar to earlier in the game. We discussed this where you're trying to keep it on that one side, but it's not an ice. Right. And then similar sort of idea where your position is supposed to be your help.
Yep.
But turns into more of a stunt and stay than a stunt and go. Yep. They make the position ball side and shoot the open 3, which they miss. But, talk to me again, similar idea about your help positions and where the breakdown lies for you.
So do you notice that the breakdowns happen a lot with number 2? So did you notice that he was one of our poor defenders? And then you also notice that 24 doesn't know our defense because he can't guard without being broken down. So that's where the breakdown's happening. So if you go to the initial start, this is a set play by Tuskegee. So they do a great job of screening the bigs. Basically, it's like a Euro screen where a ram screen, I believe is what they call in the pros, where he screens the ball screener. So he screens him for a reversal, but this guy ends up being the dribble handoff guy, or he's supposed to be a ball screener. So he gets the entry there. He quickly reverses it. And then he's basically dribble handoff to me is like a ball screen. And then here comes another ball screen. So it's great action. So if you don't talk and you don't communicate, it's hard to guard. So the first breakdown was the initial forward-to-forward screen. That switch should have happened to take away that reversal to the wing. The second breakdown was the reversal to the corner. And then the final breakdown, if you go right here, the final breakdown, because they're allowing the offense to dictate. The only thing he's doing right is he's not allowing him to use that screen, which is correct. But you see 15, he's late because he's confused because of that initial action. So he's late. So because he's late, he's in help late. 24 does a poor job of pushing the ball to the corner. And 2, once again, he's in a parallel stance instead of being more to the ball, helping with his hip. And if he's in good position, he can guard this. He can guard the ball, the drive, and he can guard this guy in the corner because he's in position to, and he's anticipating that pass in the corner. And the last thing I'll say is he should have taken a charge because the ball handler leaves his feet to make this pass.
Make the pass, yeah.
Do. So he should have been in position to take a charge.
Love it. Coach, it's all I got from Clips. Congratulations on the win, obviously. It's always nice to round out a multiple session with teams, playing them 4 times, ending on the high note. I want to say a special thank you to John Dubisson, who is on the call, for connecting us. Really appreciate that. And another 2-part special thank you that I say every week to all the coaches who cycle through and pay attention and listen. I know this Run It Back is particularly niche, and I have to, LB. I really do. Like, it just means the world to me that so many good coaches are willing to jump on and share their time with me and listen and learn and challenge each other to get better. And then a special thanks to you, Coach Gayle. I mean, you're always welcome in future if you ever want to join in. I know you're tremendously busy, but Run It Back is kind of like an open forum, is what I had hoped to create, where coaches learn and get better and have like a hot stove model where we can bounce ideas off of each other. And it's really what it has turned into. And, we're tremendously locked down up here in Canada and didn't have a season, as I mentioned. So this show has really been therapeutic to me, but it just means the world to me that all you guys are willing to share your time and listen, as I mentioned. And thank you so much, Coach Gayle, for this. This was an excellent experience.
Thanks to
really
all the
appreciate it.
coaches and all the questions. And I definitely want to be a part of this in the future. This was awesome. And shout out to my man, Coach Doobie, that shouldn't have his phone in the gas station. I'll talk to him about that.
Hey, man, I've seen some wild pictures in the past few days. We can talk about that in a minute if you want, about what's going on at gas stations. So,
but you're in Canada, so to my up north guys, shout out to the New York Knicks, Alex Klein, who's a friend of Doobie and ours, Coach Kenny Payne coming from college, making Julius Randle look like an MVP. We get it done at the college level. Shout out to the Knicks. We finally in the playoffs again.
Love it.
I didn't say we. They're finally in the playoffs again. They don't pay me anything.
Well, Coach Gayle, we'll see how this ages, because this will release in June, like I said. So we'll have a good idea of what goes on in the playoffs when this one comes out, type deal, and see how that goes. But again, as I mentioned,
Oh man.
Well, I mean, if you know his background, you'll understand the comment, right?
What needs to happen is Brooklyn versus New York. And I'm from Brooklyn, but everybody is from New York knows there's only one team in New York. So that guy that made it coming with the other team, the Nets in Jersey, is only one team. Even Jay-Z figured it out. There's only one team in New York.
I'm going to stop the recording there before these incendiary remarks get escalated. But again, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to keeping in touch in future and having you join in if you like. Thanks so much. Tune in next week for everybody who's listening in. Really appreciate it. Going to stop the recording there.
Appreciate you guys.